Evening, everybody. Thank you for attending the first ever Solarize Wayne County. So this is exciting. Thank you to Rosedale for hosting us this evening. Bruce has so kindly opened up the space for us. A couple items of housekeeping. There are bathrooms straight down this hall here, and then as you were walking in, there's a sign-in sheet. So if you weren't able to sign in on the way in, just be sure to do that on the way out. That way we can send you these slides and the recording, because part of the program is that you send the program, the recording out to peers that weren't here tonight. So that way we can get that full group by. So my name is Marshall Claveau. I work for the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. I run the Solarize campaign statewide. A little bit about GLREA. So we're one of the older nonprofits in the state of Michigan that has worked on education, advocacy, and implementation of renewable energy since 1991. GLREA has been a 501c3 working on these efforts. So we have a statewide footprint. We run this program across the state. Ann Arbor started the program back in 2021 and asked us to expand it. And so here we are. I really like to show this graphic at the onset of pretty much every presentation I give. I think it gives a really good visual representation of where we're at for our energy mix. So this is the state of Michigan back in 2021, thanks to the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory for allowing us to use this. And as you can see, solar is that very small yellow line at the very top. And so we have a long ways to go to really get to a renewable energy future here in Michigan. One of the key benefits of switching to renewable energy is we'll lose all this gray. So this is rejected energy. Heat and travel loss from fossil fuels is a big issue. Obviously, it burdens our communities with cancer and asthma and other pollutants. And so, besides the health benefits, besides the cost benefits, renewable energy is the future. We have very strong state laws mandating that we transition to 100% renewable energy, 100% clean energy by 2040. So we really have our work cut out for us, and you all here are how we're going to get it done. So the Michigan Solar Communities Guidebook is a practical guidebook for renewable energy experts or people interested. I do have some physical copies out on the table out there. Those are my last ones. It's a great resource, though. I like to say it really covers everything under the sun. So you can download it from our website, glrea.org, but also feel free to take a physical copy if you're more of a, kind of hands-on person. This is just another link to download the guide. And once again, you'll get these slides. So, don't feel like if we're going too fast, we're going to try to move quickly to open it up for the Q&A. So this is the statewide program of Solarize. Like I said, Ann Arbor started the program in 2021. We've been working to expand it ever since. It's our very first Solarize Wayne County. So that's an exciting historical event here. We've shifted a bit from just residential to include what we're doing right now, the commercial, nonprofit, place of worship, schools, businesses, to go get those tax credits. We'll talk more about the tax credits and some of the help that's out there, but kind of furthermore, we've expanded to a county approach. You'll notice there's a lot of cities on the list. And while it's good to organize by cities, county is a little more concrete of a barrier. And so there was a lot of confusion on who is eligible for the program when you do it just by city. So that's why we've expanded to the county. It's a very concrete footprint of saying, hey, Wayne County, this is the area, this is who's eligible for the program. And kind of furthermore, the counties really have strong sustainability teams. So we'll be hearing from the Wayne County sustainability team, but they've been a great ally in this effort, and across the state, there's other counties doing the work. A little bit about Solarize. What is it? Solarize is a group buy model. So the idea is that our neighbors, peer-to-peer organizing is the best way to get the work done, to educate each other, and ultimately try to get a group buy savings. So we'll talk more about the discount structure, but the idea is that if we get 15 projects signed up, we can get a 15% discount on the installation on top of all the other federal tax credits that are out there available right now. This is just a little bit of the stats to show that this is real. We're not just blowing smoke up here, but since GLREA has taken over the program, you can see here we've done 185 projects, and this is a pretty conservative estimate. But 1.4 megawatts of renewable energy. So the program's working. We're building support across the state, and folks like you will help us grow these numbers. So now we're going to welcome up Detroit 2030 District. They've been a great partner of ours. The state of Michigan has renewable energy ambassadors across the state of Michigan, and 2030 District is our local one here. So I'd like to welcome up Mason, and yeah, thanks for all their support. Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So yes, my name is Mason Christerfield. I am the building data analyst for the Detroit 2030 district. So a little bit about the Detroit 2030 district. We are a nonprofit that's working to decarbonize the built environment. One of the main programs that we run right now is a benchmarking program where we help buildings benchmark their properties pretty much where they can understand where they're at now with their energy and their water consumption in hopes of getting them to use less and reduce the cost of their buildings. So I'm here as the elective pay ambassador. So what is elective pay? Elective pay is the tax credit that tax exempt entities get for installing clean energy projects. Any commercial entity can claim these credits, but elective pay is specifically for tax exempt entities. So what is the tax exempt entity? Schools, nonprofits, houses of worship, local government. So myself and Peggy Matta, she's in the back. We are the elective pay ambassadors for Region 10. That's Oakland County, Wayne County, and Macomb County. And again, as Marshall said, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. But if you have any questions, we have our cards and information and our contact information on the slides. So please reach out to us. So elective pay is genuinely uncapped, non-competitive. Most projects can get up to 30% of their project costs back to them in a direct cash payment. So you don't need a tax liability, you still get this money back to you as a check. With bonus credits that can go up to 40, 50, up to 70%. 70% is not as common, but 30, 40, 50% very common to get back as a tax credit. So there's multiple clean energy projects that are eligible, but specifically for Solarize, we focus on solar and we focus on energy storage. So a lot of times projects match up their solar with batteries as well. How does the elective pay work? It works after you install your project. So once your project is placed in service, you will file a pre-filing registration. Then after that, you will file your actual taxes. And then 45 days to 6 weeks later, they issue your check. If they are late for any reason, the IRS, if they're late, then you will accumulate interest on top of that. But one caveat I want to say, while elective pay process starts after you place your project in service, as elective pay ambassadors, we are here to help along the way. So we help at just the ideal stage as well. There are some important deadlines we want to consider when it comes to solar. We encourage you to get your project started before July 4th of this year. If you do, you buy yourself 4 years to complete. If you don't get your project started before July the 4th of this year, then you have to complete your project. That means place it in service by the end of next year. Start of construction is what they go by. What qualifies for start of construction is allocating or incurring 5% of the project costs. So if you incur 5% of your project costs before July 4th, you can say you have started your project, and that gives you 4 years to complete it. When it comes to battery storage doesn't expire until 2032, so you have a little bit more time if that's a part of your project. The important rule here is the prohibited foreign entities. Prohibited foreign entities, this is a rule that if anyone started your project this year, you have to comply with that. It is pretty complex. It talks about how much materials are into your like your solar panels or your inverters. We don't, expect anyone to know this. That's why we're here as elected pay ambassadors to help you through this. Because if you don't comply, you won't be able to claim your tax credit. If you have a project over 1 megawatt, talk to me. Other than that, I'm just gonna skip over the slide. Pretty much this rule just says, this is, if your project is completely grant funded, then you don't qualify for elective pay. You have to have some type of skin in the game. You can't get a tax credit back if your organization didn't put up any money in the beginning. We have a few different financing options that we can help you with to get your project started. One is Michigan Saves. The other one is the Michigan Climate Investment Fund. Revolve, it's not on the slide, but we have flyers in the back. There's another one that works with nonprofits. So if you are interested and you're looking for funding, please reach out to us. We have plenty of options. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, next here we got Jim with the Greenleaf Commission. We like to bring in the local partners, kind of, paint the whole picture. And so thank you, Jim, for all your help over the years. Jim has been a longtime advocate of Solarize, and this is not his first program, so he knows the deal.
Well, thank you, Marshall, and thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to learn about the future in Livonia, which is one of the directions will be solar energy itself. In terms of the Greenleaf Commission, I chair the Greenleaf Commission, which is the city's environmental commission. A little bit of history about us. When we first started out, we were 7 citizens that had concerns about the environment in Livonia, and we were looking for ways to improve it. So we met at the Civic Center Library for 3 years in a conference room monthly to discuss issues, and we served as a citizens advisory board to the city of Livonia on environmental issues. Then in 2017, we evolved. The Greenleaf Commission became a formal city commission at that point, and we've been operating on that point ever since. As a commission, we have 7 members, all appointed by the mayor of Livonia, and we serve 4-year terms. The Greenleaf Commission has actually brought some recognition to Livonia for its environmental efforts. When we started as a commission, the city had no environmental leadership recognition within the community or within the state of Michigan. One of the first awards we worked for was establishing Livonia as an environmental leader. We were recognized by SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, for its environmental leadership. With that, some of our initial efforts were recognized for moving in Livonia in the direction to be an environmentally responsible community. One of the other awards that we have, we work with Michigan Green Communities Challenge. There's over 1,700 communities in Michigan. Out of those 1,700, approximately 68 have some type of state environmental certification level. You're either bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. Right now, Livonia currently has a silver level certification with the organization. We're working diligently towards gold. We're closing in. We need 100 points to obtain silver level certification for Livonia. We're at 98. So first down and goal. So we're moving forward as well. The other thing is we believe in a lot of outreach and education as a commission. We have a website, Instagram site. We have different information tables at community events like this one. Our social media has been recognized by an organization as a very readable website and informative site on the subject of sustainability itself. One of the initiatives with solar energy, we started this a few years ago. It's called Solarize Livonia. And the idea was to bring a group-wide programs into Livonia for residential solar energy installation. Initially, what we did is we partnered with two groups. One was the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, and also we partnered with Madonna University. Now, why Madonna University? Madonna University is a strong advocate on environmental issues. Some of the achievements they have there. The Franciscan Center is a gold certified LEED building. It's one of the few in the country at that level. Other projects, as we all know, at 5 Mile in Newburgh, they've established an extensive solar array there to offset some of their energy uses at the Montessori school as well. In addition to that, they also, with their Welcome Center, utilize things like geothermal energy and other types of alternative sources for heating and energy itself. So when we launched Solarize Livonia, we did this, we actually launched it at Madonna University a few years ago, and we did it with two events. One, we brought in all the businesses that offered sustainable services to the Livonia community. They had information tables. The residents had the opportunity to learn about these businesses. And then we also had John Freeman, who was the leader for the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, come in, explain the Solarize program to Livonia residents. We also had Brandon, I believe you were there. And Brandon took the group through the process of installing solar energy in a residential home. And there's a lot of education that goes into that before people do make the buying decision. After we did that, we then began rolling into the neighborhoods and had a number of neighborhood meetings. As you can see, actually we had one of the neighborhood meetings actually here at Rosedale Church with the old Rosedale Garden Homeowners Association, as well as other points in the city as well. We had meetings with their homeowners associations and began installing solar energy on a residential level. One thing the Greenleaf Commission did do is we reached out to other areas where solar energy could be utilized. And one of those areas is with solar streetlights. What we were looking at doing is piloting solar streetlights on City of Livonia municipal property. The area that we had selected was the 5 Mile in Farmington area. There were some 3 streetlights that were slated for replacement. We thought it'd be a good opportunity to test and pilot that concept. We had one site selected in front of the former senior center and then 2 others in the parking lot across, one from City Hall and one in front of the library. As you know, we had the Livonia Built Village project last year, so we had to put that project on hold, but we do have the resources and the sites identified if we have the opportunity to move forward with that. One of the awards that the Greenleaf Commission gives out annually is the City of Livonia Greenleaf Award. And we work with the Livonia Westland Chamber of Commerce on this award. And the idea behind this award is to recognize Livonia businesses that demonstrate environmental leadership within our community and incorporate good environmental practices into their daily operations as well. Several years ago, we recognized the Bain Group. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that. They're located at 6 Mile and I-275. They're a property management company, but they did something very unique. They had some excess capacity in parking behind their building. So they took a third of that parking lot and then converted it into a solar array that they could utilize in their headquarters, which is the building in the area. Now, what they're doing with that is they're offsetting about a third of their electrical usage via solar energy. And this is probably one of the first businesses in Livonia to actually integrate solar energy into their day-to-day operations as well. And again, this is just a quick site map of the solar streetlight project that we proposed, and we're just waiting for the opportunity to launch, but we do have sites identified, on city property, and it's just a matter of, as a lot of us know, what the final determination on that property will be, and if we can find an opportunity to test these lights and see how they operate in the Livonia community, I think it'll be beneficial for all of us. Wrong way. Very good. So again, thank you for the opportunity to let us share our information on solar energy. And I'd like to thank our partners, the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, Detroit 2030, and the Wayne County Sustainability and Innovation Office for partnering and moving this project forward. Thanks again.
All right, now we'll have Isaac from the county, and again, Wayne County's been a great partner, so appreciate all the efforts there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for showing up today. Thanks again to Marshall, Mason, and Jim for introducing me. I am Isaac. I am with the Wayne County Sustainability and Innovation Division. Just wanted to point out real quick that I'm so glad we had this big window behind us here today, really showing off how much free clean energy we get from the sun every single day. So I'm glad that today did end up being sunny. If you're thinking, I didn't realize that Wayne County even had a sustainability team, don't worry, you're not alone. We are pretty new. We've only had full-time staff in the division for about the last 2 years, and we've added a lot of new people recently. So there are a lot of programs that we are just now standing up. So hopefully you will hear more from us in the future. Just a click with this. Awesome. So in Wayne County, the sustainability team is housed within our economic development department. So we share a lot of an overlapping mission with the rest of the department. Overall, the department is focused on enhancing quality of life, economic vitality, and strengthening the entire region. Those of us within the Sustainability and Innovation Division, we're focused primarily on improving resource efficiency within the county, on strengthening our alignment with the states and with the region's climate goals, which are pretty ambitious, and also supporting the county's most vulnerable residents, especially in environmental justice areas. This is our dream team, the sustainability folks within Wayne County. Again, half of the people on this team, including myself, have only been with the county for 6 months or less. So we're really in a exciting ramping up phase, and there's a lot of projects that we will be standing up soon that hopefully you'll hear some more about. And last but not least, just wanted to end again on our 3 main topics of improving resource efficiency, aligning ourselves with the state and with the region's climate goals, and with providing for the region's most vulnerable residents. Among some other projects that we're working on, we are putting plans together to decarbonize our own county-owned buildings. We are creating a network of resilience hubs that are going to be resources for community members in extreme weather events and in power outages. We are putting together a roadmap for EV charging within the county. And last but not least, we are putting together a roadmap for decarbonizing buildings within Wayne County that are not owned by the county. So a lot of really exciting things coming down the pipe, and hopefully you'll hear more about us in the coming years. Thank you so much.
All right, and before we get to Brandon with Synergy, our trusted contractor company here today, I'm going to welcome up Murray Rosenthal from Solar Faithful, who's just going to do a brief intro about what Solar Faithful is and some of the financing options that they have available. Murray?
Hey, everyone. Hey, this is audience participation. Raise your hand if you're a member of a house of worship, church, synagogue, mosque. Keep it up there. How many of you belong to a church that owns their own building? Keep it up. It's not everybody. Some people, I guess they run other places. And how many of those buildings have a roof? All right. So everybody that had their hands raised there at the end is eligible to get solar panels on the roof. Solar Faithful is a new nonprofit organization. It was started about 3 years ago. We've gotten solar on the roofs of 20 different houses of worship throughout Michigan. We have 3 different financing programs. One, you need to either borrow the money or you need to have the money in your bank account to pay for the solar. But the option I want to talk about is completely free. We have, we call it an ESSA, and it's just an agreement that you sign with Solar Faithful, and you agree to have the panels on your roof, and you agree to pay for the solar electricity generated. You just sign that ESSA contract and you won't pay a nickel. So all you guys that had your hand raised on the third question, you can get free solar panels. Solar is a real bargain, and that's why we can do this. Now, you'll be paying for the solar electricity generated, but you'll be paying less, and we guarantee you at least 10% less than you're paying to your current utility. So you're going to save a little bit of money. So I've got some brochures on the table outside and my card, which I'll leave here. But that's Solar Faithful in a nutshell. So free solar. There's no excuse not to do it.
All right, and now we got Brandon Knight with Strategy, who's really a great contractor. The state of Michigan, you know, the solar industry gets a bad rep, and for some reasons, good reasons. There are bad companies out there. Strategy is not one of those companies. One of the benefits of Solarize is working with GLRA nonprofit, a trusted contractor, and that kind of paints the whole program to let you know it's a trusted program, and we're going to be here to help you. So thank you, Brandon, for all your work.
Hi, everyone. Are we just doing one event? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Brandon. I've been working on solar for a long time, probably 20 years now. Started as a activist, was up at Michigan State and got involved in trying to find solutions to climate change, and always was interested in, from a business angle or how to create jobs. In 2005, the auto industry was having a lot of issues, and I didn't really understand it. Growing up, I grew up in Royal Oak. I went to the First Presbyterian Church, Royal Oak, actually. So, but I started to see solar as a very versatile, flexible solution. And, we're talking about sustainability. And I started to gravitate towards solar just because it's just so flexible, from small projects to megawatt scale utility projects, to the resiliency aspect to it. And also, I really like the autonomy aspect to it. And I think, in my mind, it's a very democratic technology that, as it spreads and there's more distributed ownership, that people have more of a voice where their energy is coming from, and they're speaking with their dollar bills and everything like that. So I've always just been trying to work on how to make projects possible. So we're kind of project developers, and companies like ours, we're generally in the residential and commercial space because we can work in the distributed generation program that DTE and Consumers Energy have. So there's a lot of contractors like us, and generally we will do turnkey projects is our goal. Like, that's the ideal type of project that would come into a solar contractor like us, where we would be hired to develop the whole system, develop the concepts, put a package together for you, We would pull all the permits, we would do the interconnection work with the utility, we would do the engineering, the design, we would select all the products, and this is called turnkey. So generally we do the whole project turnkey, and the utility turns it on and we would walk off. So in terms of like Solar Faithful, I believe, potentially we would just be a contractor, if you chose to finance your project through Solar Faithful, a company like us would also be involved to help get the work done at the building. So yeah, I've worked on a lot of grid-tied systems in Michigan. I've worked on a lot of like hybrid systems, whether that's sort of off-grid or a flexible system that can be a on-grid system and transition to off-grid for resiliency. And I've worked on even smaller things than that, like been involved in solar streetlight efforts and mobile systems that can be, carried into a site or trailer mounted or anything like that. So have a big passion, and hard to translate it through PowerPoints, but I'll try. So we're based in Novi. So most of our projects are in Southeast Michigan. We do go out of state. We're hungry. We're always just trying to stay busy with work. So it's a lot of words. But the company's been around since 2010. So we do like hybrid systems where, we'll do a grid-tied system, like basically a grid-tied system without all the bells and whistles. You're really relying on the distributed generation program from DTE that's going to frame kind of all the economics of the project. So when you export power back to DTE or consumers, you're only being credited for the supply side of your bill. You're not getting credits for the distribution credits. So there can be sort of a sweet spot where like a system that would offset maybe 70%, that might be in a sweet spot for what we call like a return on investment on your system. Like how fast can you put your money into the system? How fast can you get it out of that? But that's not always the goal. So if your goal is to, for sustainability or for your contributions to, you just want the most solar power as possible, then we're ruled by, that's 110% offset, which is DTE and consumers' regulated framework for how big of a system. So we look at your utility bill and we can project out a system that on paper would produce 110% of how much energy you use in the last year. And that's going to be like the largest bill savings that you could have. But it might not be the fastest return on investment. So when you layer in, and for mainly residential, but if you layer in energy storage, you're going to be kind of throwing out the return on investment piece, because you're going to increase the cost of the system where you really need to have value somewhere else, as in like resiliency, for your home, that you're valuing that because you're not going to pay off the battery through avoided costs through the utility. But if the value of it is that it keeps your refrigerator on or CPAP machines on, or psychologically, people have a big problem with grid-tied solar arrays that drop out if the grid goes down. So you have to have an energy storage system pretty much to transition into off-grid with your solar panels. Got to have that battery pretty much in the controller to keep it all running. So we do a lot of projects that we'll do the standard grid-tied system. Love that. But a lot of times we get into just more complex systems with energy storage and looking at what products are capable to make that backup situation as smooth as possible for the customer. So that's all part of what we quickly try to do, and present our solution. But the general process is that we get your utility bill. We do a lot of things remote. This is kind of the standard thing that most solar companies are doing these days. Try to set up a site visit. If we need to go on the roof, try to set that up. Get access to the roof. We'll want to review your electric system. Commercial systems, I think one of the trickier parts is just electric systems can be hard to get to. The transition from solar panels getting it into electric system and then getting our required like disconnecting means in the right place. That can be the stuff I love to get into and figure out solutions for, and the electrical design. So that's what, we will, basically anyone that will work with us and provide us with information on your property and your utility bill. We want to work with you and try to present a project proposal. So, I don't know, slides. Yeah,
Yeah, I like to say, the only guarantee in life is your energy bill is going to keep rising. So I think that's what that last slide was getting at, is that our utility bills are going to keep rising 6 to 10% each year under the monopoly utility structure.
Yeah, and I just would, hesitate to, call it like an economic silver bullet or something. You really are investing in a power plant. Generally the warranties are going to be, of the products are going to be up to 25-year warranties on these things. So when you are purchasing a solar array, especially if you pay cash, you're buying 25 to 30 years of electricity all at once. So there's definitely going to be a big financial advantages to that if you can afford that type of structure. But yeah, we'll also work with Solar Faithful. We develop power purchase agreements in-house as well. That would probably be similar structure where you're not putting money down. We're coming in with a full technical and financial package, putting up the system, and then you're paying us for the power produced from the solar array. We have some working examples in Wayne County. Recently, we've done Hype Athletics. They're under a power purchase agreement. They have a Dearborn Heights facility, and they have Wayne. So there's at least a megawatt of solar between those two sites, and they did power purchase agreements. So that's very popular. Anything we can do to kind of get projects done, and power purchase agreements can be very enabling tools. But the biggest financial advantage you're going to have is if you can just drop the cash and outright buy it. That's going to be the biggest savings overall, but that's very difficult. So power purchase agreements are another option, and would love to work with you on that. Love energy storage and integrating other services. We did the Detroit Friends Meeting House, which grew out of the last Solarize Livonia program. We met Peter Dale, who actually invested in a system at his home. He did solar and battery in Livonia, and then he is part of the Quaker Church, and they bought a new building in Detroit and established the Detroit Friends Meeting House. So they brought us into that project. They did like a big sort of full gut of the inside of the building. So we were able to kind of do some energy efficiency stuff too, get involved in some of the electrical upgrades at the building. Some heat pumps went in, and then we did a solar battery system. So the whole building's backed up, and they actively cycle their batteries at Detroit Friends to avoid the grid as much as they can. So some examples in Wayne County that we've recently done. But yeah, love energy storage, more advanced system. We're really getting into isolating part of the building so that it can be backed up when we do that. So there's some electrical design and love to work on that. So we do mention, like the energy storage allows you to kind of shift and control your solar a little bit more, so you can tuck some away in the battery and discharge it at night, or imagine a cloud comes over and you start discharging your battery during the day, and cloud goes away, solar comes back up, and that would give you the biggest chance to avoid DTE, right, through that. So if that's the goal, love that goal. That's what we're looking for. Love to work with you on that. So, yeah, so 4 to 8 year payback period is pretty aggressive. I think we're 10-year payback period is reasonable. Where for a grid tied system, you drop the cash into this thing, takes you 10 years of avoided cost from the utility. So we don't have the federal tax credit anymore for residential, so that actually would push back out farther. But for commercial, that's what we'd be looking at. And we also go over your modified accelerated cost recovery system schedule, and make sure on commercial systems that we're working with your accountant, or at least getting you the information. Want you to put that in front of your accountant first, so that our details on our financials for what we're presenting on the project would be verified by your accountant for tax credits. So we're not tax professionals. Yeah, we went over some of the incentives. I appreciate some of the earlier things and some of the timelines. So we are running into some timelines as the policy has shifted with our new great administration. So yeah, I think this is in Detroit, also on Vernon Highway. I think that's a power purchase agreement as well. So yeah, personally, like I've been in the field doing electrical on roofs, commissioning inverters, going around the country doing service on projects, things like that. But yeah, just any way I can be around this stuff, spread it, develop projects. That's my goal. So that's all I got.
And then this is just the quick timeline here for the programming. So the idea is that really over the next week, 2 weeks, reach out to Brandon to get a free quote on your project. From that point, if it's a commercial project, we understand that the decision making is going to be perhaps a little variable. Typically, the residential angle, we would say after the 2 weeks to request a quote, you have 2 weeks to make a decision, but being a commercial project, that's going to take longer. So 2 to 3 month window is reasonable to expect to make that decision. So we'll work with you on, letting you know how many people are signed up, what that discount's looking like, things like that. And then that's Brandon's contacts, and yeah, open for Q&A. Happy to answer any questions while we still got time. Yeah.
Ask you just a ballpark figure. 1,000 square foot home in Livonia with battery, how much would you guesstimate it would cost to put in solar?
Only like $20,000 to $25,000.
Yeah.
And it would take you, so with the battery, you would be able to, so that's a battery, including a battery, right? Because that's the biggest thing.
Right.
Because you get the energy, but where do you put it when you don't have the sun, right? So does that include a battery system?
Well, yeah, we usually have our price per watt, so we have to be like somewhat transparent. So I guess I can follow up with the community price point, and I might need to just verify that too. We're generally like the goal of the industry has been to have solar arrays around $3 a watt. That's like a general frame that we've been going for a long time. It's now 2026 and we're trying to get there in like 2020 and there's been a lot of inflation. But that's always been, my, activist side. So when you're looking at like 1,000 square foot home, that's, we're probably assuming something like a pretty small system, like a 3 to 4 kilowatt system. So it'd be like multiplying 4,000 watts times 3. It's probably, I don't remember exact price per watt right now. So that would get us to a $12,000 system. And then the battery, it's not going to be part of that pricing because it's going to, I think our premier package that we want people to go with, I believe starts at like $20,000 for the Franklin watt hour full home backup solution. And then we have some options that will be lower than that as well. But that's just us. So that's where I'm getting, you probably don't need that big of a battery. So we're probably looking at, what budget we can get it to keep the project around $25,000 or something like that. But this is like totally not my style and going off the cuff. So
Yeah, it's all an estimate.
I'm looking at price per watt. But there's a bunch of things that we're looking at. Like we got to verify that you have solar access, that those panels are going to actually perform in the place. Because if they don't perform,
How
then
do you do that? How do you?
There's tools, every company will have a different tool that can actually, type in your address and you'll be able to find, it's called iridescence. And the company will be able to see which part of your roof the sun shines the most. So it'll take into effect trees that are in the neighborhood, all those types of things. Yep, you can put them in your yard, you can put them on the roof, on the garage, all those options are available.
Does it make a difference if you have a house generator? Do they fight with each other?
we would probably recommend that we don't put the money into the battery unless or there are hybrid systems now, which I love, where the battery controller actually controls the generator, and then you have 3 sources. So the solar and battery runs out of power during an outage, it automatically triggers the generator to come on. Then it will run the house and charge the battery back up once. So then you're getting into like, prepping for the apocalypse situation. So, which we have, like, I don't want to discourage it because a lot of people end up, we'll start with modeling of the solar, figuring out if that's something that you're going to look into. And then the same thing with some auxiliary products, EV chargers, things like that. See overall what package you want, and then the existing generator, that would just be kind of like an add-on to our package. That's just like an additional feature of the package where we rewire your generator into the system controller, reprogram it, and set all that up for you.
Yep. Yeah. Another question here?
Yes, this is for 2030. So you mentioned earlier that there's you mentioned earlier that we had applied for or to kind of submit for expense money on that project. My project's probably not that close at this point, but just in case it is, we were looking at a geothermal / solar system kind of combo situation. So I have 2 questions with this. First is, can that system be designed after it's started and redesigned? Let's say we want to increase something, or is it like once we kind of pull this process, we spend 5%, digging some holes, start to install some power. Would we have an opportunity to change that after that 4-year period? Like if we want to increase the array or something like that after we get more time to kind of work with their neighbors, et cetera, or that's something that's like whatever you submit in this process you want.
Can I stop you for a moment?
Yep.
Isn't this supposed to be the business side of this
Yeah,
This is
this is a
business.
business, yeah.
And you're talking about the residents or neighbors and stuff like that.
Well,
We're
I'm
talking
talking neighbors,
business.
building owners, they're talking Solarize.
All right, I just want to make sure, because we're going to residential.
Yeah, I think it's probably a mix of, there's probably some residential mixed in, so,
Right.
yeah, but
Anyway, I'm part of the business owner, looking at, potentially looking at Solarize, it's also taking neighbors into the account, like potentially having multiple people. So, so anyway, I was just gonna guess that's the question, is it something that we're locked into, something at that July 4th construction?
Well, so for the electric pay credit or the ITC credit, in fact, investment tax credit, that is only for commercial, so that doesn't apply to residential law, at this point. And with the 4 years, if you start your project before July 4th, your project has to be complete in 4 years. Now, 5% is the total project cost. So even if your project increases, the start of construction still is 5% of that cost. So one of the things that we advise is, knowing projects usually run over its estimated cost, is to aim closer to 10%. So that way, even if you do scale up or whatever happens, you run over budget. If you have incurred 10% of the expenses before July 4th, even if it goes over, you're still fine.
The other option is to put the whole project in service at the end of 20.
that's true. What we saw, so 2025, the residential expired. The utilities sent out this strange letter saying, if you don't submit your project by the end of September, we might not interconnect you. So while yes, there's a caveat, it has to be done by the end of 2027. It's really like September, October. You gotta have that system plugged into, you just don't know what the utilities are gonna do. So our organization's working to get clarity on that ahead of time, just to make sure that that doesn't get pulled again. But I think you want to aim really to have your project done at the very latest September, October of 2027.
Brandon, in your experience with installing solar at local businesses, are there any particular zoning requirements or ordinances and codes that maybe need to be aware of as a business owner going into planning the project?
If we're doing something that's more ground mount or carport, that's gonna get into the zoning. And, I haven't done any major carport projects, and so that would be setbacks. And then generally, under 150-foot roof plane on a commercial building, we can have 4-foot setbacks from the edge. If it's over 150 feet, we have to go to 6-foot setbacks, which can really impact things. So if it's like a shingle pitched roof, then that's like really annoying to deal with the setbacks, and hopefully we can get a variance that would be looked at more like a residential system, which is 3-foot setbacks and just 1.5 feet at the ridge. That's what you would typically see on a pitched roof asphalt system. You gotta have 3 foot on the edges and 1.5 feet at the top. But on a commercial system, on a flat roof, smaller arrays, smaller buildings can be a 4-foot setback from the edge. And then you're dealing with, so that's more of the issue. And then dealing with the rooftop units and things like that that can really eat away from what's really possible for the solar array. And then there's a big code on rapid shutdown that is a huge thing that the inspectors and not so much the utility company, but in terms of zoning, I'm not aware of anything out of the ordinary in Livonia in terms of street facing panels. We've done that. If the building's in a historic area, then we usually have to have like certain aesthetics, apply for that. but I'll always figure it out.
Had another question?
Yeah, so, our church will be able to do this. At what point does, like, with that, this is zoning requirement. Sorry, would a church be eligible for the tax credit?
Yep. So the 30% direct tax credit, the church would be available, and Detroit 2030 district would be able to help you walk through that whole process. Yep.
While we're talking about that, can we nail down for the commercial class of worship folks here, when that 30% tax credit expires?
So that 30% federal tax credit is expires at the end of 2027. And that's what we were talking about, having that project kind of in the hopper.
Project's gotta be done, like,
That's right, to be able to get that 30%. Yep, and being part of the Solarize group here is an automatic 5%. And then if we get 15 projects, that would be another 15%.
so, each prime gets more, sorry.
That's right, yeah, yep, so we'll be able to send the recording out to, to everyone, so. Any other questions?
A question for Brandon. If you install a solar system, it's residential or business. If you do install a system, either being business or a resident, are there any ongoing maintenance costs or practices associated with working with that system? Do they have to be cleaned? Do you have to check there and do something? Is there any things like that, a business or resident?
Definitely are. The part of it is, when you're working with us, like we have our preferred power electronic companies, which are really going to be the other points in the system. So, we really like the Enphase microinverters, for smaller systems because their failure rate is so low. And they're gonna last 25 years. We don't really want you going up and touching the panels, like especially in Michigan where you have a lot of rainfall. I don't see why you should be trying to clean them. Personally, we do get a lot of frustrations with snow sticking. And I'll lightly say, like, get a snow rake, they have 25-foot handles. If you can't handle that, but this is generally for asphalt roofs. Yeah, they're not perfect. We have to often have a technician come site every now and then. And something comes up, and so we have to teach you how to monitor your system mainly, so you can pick up any out of the ordinary errors to flag it. And then we want to be involved in that. We don't want you trying to, personally, we don't really want you to actively be doing anything. The lightest thing we want is to clear snow from your panels. But I don't even have an official company statement on that.
Who manufactures the panels? What's the typical warranty on the site?
Most of them that we're working with are like a 25-year product warranty now, which is warranting the build of the panel. And they all have linear degradation curves. So those are all going to be a little bit different, but they're all going to have 25-year degradation warranties, like basically how much the silicone under the glass is degrading.
Yeah. So it's not like the panels stop working at 25 years. They'll just, the efficiency will decrease, 1 to 2% after that year 25. That's what that warranty kind of says. So we are running up on time. So just a couple more questions before we switch over and do the residential portion. Very similar PowerPoint, but we had some people come in, so I want to respect their time. So if there's any final commercial questions, we can get those answered. Yeah.
What's the lifespan of the lithium ion battery? That's the very right?
Seems like 10 to 15 year warranties now. Okay.
And that's not, they're not going to stop working. That's just, the warranty on that. So.
Are they like lithium ion phosphate?
Yeah, lithium phosphate is, so Franklin Water, which we're gonna be pitching to people here in phase batteries are lithium phosphate.
Yeah.
They're not all lithium phosphate. I know Tesla's, I don't think it's all.
No.
We really like Franklin's product, just in terms of how it's worked with a customer. It's been the smoothest energy storage system I've dealt with. That's fine.
So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this recording for the commercial portion, and then we'll start the residential in just about 5 minutes, for everyone. And just a reminder for people that walked in, there's a bathroom down the hallway, there's food outside, so, thank you for attending.
By the way, just for your information, we got a lot of light coming in because all, the windows